Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great pleasure. Let's get our colleagues from the administration to come join us. It is a great pleasure to be here at PS 307 here in Brooklyn. 1 week till opening day of school. There is excitement in this building. This is a great school, and everyone is getting ready for our children to start school on Thursday. And it is a great feeling because people are doing so much work to get ready to educate the children of this city. So I'm proud to be here. I'm thankful to our principal, Roberta Davenport, who's done an outstanding job in this school. Let's thank her for all she does. We are 1 week away from opening day. As a parent, I can tell you this is always an exciting time of year. We look forward to what lies ahead for our children. An amazing amount of effort goes each year into preparing for school and to make it great for our kids. And this year, something very special added to the reality. The beginning of a historic push, a historic step forward for this city as we greatly expand pre-K for our children. Full day, high quality pre-K for our children. We will have record numbers of children in full-day pre-K. We will have the largest number of children in full-day pre-K in the history of New York City starting this Thursday. It will be a turning point moment. And I hasten to add, this is step one of two steps. Next year, we will add even more high-quality full-day pre-K seats to the point that literally every child at pre-K age in this city the following year will be accommodated, and then every year thereafter. It will become the norm in this city that every child deserves high-quality full-day pre-K. This has been an incredible journey. A couple of years ago, it started as an idea. People believed in it. People supported it over and over again. More and more people joined in and wanted this to become a reality. They wanted to see our children served in a way they've never been served before. They wanted to see our children prepared in a way necessary for the 21st century. They wanted to see the city of New York lead the nation in providing high-quality, full-day pre-K, and that's exactly what we are doing. This has become a movement, nothing less than a movement, because so many people, educators and community activists and parents have joined together to make this a reality. They made their voices heard last year in the public debate, in the election. They've made their voices heard this year by fighting to make sure that these programs were available for their children. They went with us to Albany to ensure the resources would be there. Parents have been reaching out, community leaders reaching out, clergy reaching out to make sure people signed up for pre-K. This has become a movement. And as a result of that movement, as of this moment, there are 50,407 students enrolled for the New York City full-day pre-K program. 50,407 students enrolled. A lot of you have paid attention to what we pledged to do. We pledged to hit 53,000 in September, and we will hit 53,000 in September. There's a huge amount of demand. In fact, the stories you will hear of people who hope they could get full-day pre-K, and even at the 53,000 level, there were still some kids who couldn't be accommodated this year. But next year, every single child will be accommodated. This 53,000 number is astounding. Now, I'm honored to put forward this vision. It was my number one platform agenda. I ran on it in the election. I've worked on it every day since. But the people around me are the ones who made it work. These commissioners, these elected officials, put a huge amount of time into making this work. Behind them, thousands of teachers and school staff and health inspectors and fire marshals and you name it, building inspectors. Folks at the Department of Investigations have been working overtime. This has been a team effort if ever you've seen it. I convened meetings, and I want to thank our Deputy Mayor, Richard Burey, who's led this effort with great energy. He's called together people from every relevant city department. For a lot of people, this was not the norm to have all the agencies in one room in common cause, but Richard ran those meetings. You had the fire department, the health department, investigations, buildings, DOE, ACS, and lots more in common cause to make sure we had full-day pre-K, to make sure it was safe and effective and ready. And these professionals deserve our praise. I'd like anyone who feels good about this achievement to thank the people who did it. Give them a round of applause for all they did. I mentioned Deputy Mayor Richard Bury and his leadership. Of course, our school's chancellor, Carmen Farina, who's done an outstanding job. Our fire commissioner, Dan Nigro, who's been focused every day on the safety of our children. Our health commissioner, Mary Bassett. Dr. Mary Bassett has been a key player in this effort every day. And I know how passionate she is about making sure these sites are safe and ready for our children. The woman who is charged more than anyone in the city government with looking out for the health and welfare of our children, Gladys Carrion, our Commissioner for the Administration for Children's Services. Thank you for all you have done to prepare for this day. Again, the Investigations Department played an extraordinary and active role. I want to thank Commissioner Mark Peters for your extraordinary effort and that of your team. I want to thank Department of Buildings, played a key role in making sure facilities were ready. And thank First Deputy Commissioner Tom Ferriello for his great work and his team's great work. All these folks, all the folks who work for them, all the principals and teachers and staff, all the parents who've been a part of it. And then there was a separate team, an extraordinary team that went out to communities all over the city. Some of you have seen them. They went to community festivals and block parties. They went to beauty salons and barbershops. They went wherever parents were, aunts and uncles were, grandmothers, grandfathers. And they told them that their children, the children in their lives, could have full-day, high-quality pre-K. And by the way, it was for free. It was a way to do something transcendent for these children, to change their lives forever and for good. And people were so appreciative that the city of New York went to them. They didn't have to hunt. They didn't have to search for information. They didn't have to fight bureaucracy. The public servants went to them, and that team did an extraordinary job, and that's why these numbers are what they are today. It's August, and over 50,000 kids already signed up, and we want to thank that incredible enrollment team led by Rick Fromberg and Alexis Confer. Let's thank them for their great work. I want to acknowledge my colleagues in government. Some may be showing up as we go along, but it has been, again, a team effort. We said from the beginning we're going to reach out to all the elected officials, ask them to be partners because they have the trust of people in their districts and all over the city, and that we wanted them to go, their staffs to go wherever you went. Town hall meetings, community centers, talk about pre-K. PTA meetings, talk about pre-K. And they did it with extraordinary effect, and it's part of why we have this moment of success. You're going to hear from our public advocate, Tish James. We're on her home turf here. Thank you, Tish James, for all you did. Thank you, Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer, Assembly Member Felix Ortiz, Council Member Steve Levin. We're honored to be in your district. Council Member Mark Traeger, Council Member Adonis Rodriguez, Council Member Andy Cohen, and Council Member Matthew Eugene. And if I miss anyone, I know a handy note will be passed to me, and I will update you. So I'll say this quickly before I bring up some of my colleagues. Parents get it. Parents get what this means for our kids. They understand the difference between their child getting a strong start and not getting it. That's why parents are voting with their feet. They are enrolling because they want this opportunity for their children. We built this in a year, and the people we came here to serve have ratified it by the extraordinary enrollment numbers. They know that children who get full-day, high-quality pre-K are more likely to stay on grade level, to graduate on time, to be successful after school. It's as simple as that. Parents believe in pre-K. They believe that we are doing everything we can to make it strong and effective and safe for their children. That's a commitment. That's what every one of these professionals is in public service to do. That's what I'm in public service to do. And as a parent, I take this very seriously. And by the way, a lot of these incredible leaders who watch out for the safety of our people and our children every day happen to be parents themselves, or they have they have nieces and nephews or grandchildren in their lives that are precious to them. Everyone sees it through the human prism. We are here to protect our children and to elevate them. And this is an extraordinary team devoted to it. I remember vividly when Chiara and Dante started pre-K. Every parent in the beginning, that sense of a child advancing. It's an incredible moment. A child takes their first step into education. I remember what it did for my children. They both had full-day, high-quality pre-K at PS 372 in Brooklyn. It made a huge difference in their lives. It's part of what made me so passionate about this cause. And I know how much we depend on our teachers and the school staff and all the people who do all the inspections and everyone to get it right. I've been down that road myself with the two children that are so profoundly precious to me, that are my whole life. I saw it with my own eyes, and that's why I know it can work. Over this summer, all of these agencies worked hard. There's over 1,100 pre-K sites. They worked hard to make sure they met the health department's high standards for health and safety. They worked hard to make sure that there were any outstanding violations of any consequence, that they were addressed aggressively. There was a rigorous plan to address them. There were follow-up inspections, and any program, any site that didn't make the grade literally was pulled out of our pre-K effort. Because so many sites wanted to participate, when we found a weak link, we literally took it out of the program and replaced it with a better one. 1,100 plus sites around the city. You might ask the obvious question, how many have an outstanding health violation that we're working on right now? Grand total, all 5 boroughs, 5 sites have outstanding health violations that we are working to rectify right now. That is down from 12 the previous week. There's only 5 left. The reason this was possible is that we put an extraordinary group of personnel on the case. Department of Education increased its early childhood team by 100 trained individuals. Health Department strengthened its inspection team by 40 additional personnel. FDNY created a 20-person task force specifically to focus on pre-K sites. Design and construction assigned 15 people. Buildings assigned 13 people. It was an extraordinary combined effort. And the full weight of this government was put behind getting it right and making sure we dotted every I and crossed every T. Sometimes we find something that's not up to our standards. We act immediately to fix it. If we don't like what we see, again, we'll close the site if we don't feel comfortable that's up to our standards. So everyone's ready. Parents are ready. Teachers are ready. Kids are ready. You're going to hear in a moment, a couple of moments I should say, from Kathleen Mooney, who's a pre-K teacher here at PS 307. She's going to speak not only for this school, but for pre-K teachers all over the city who've been working hard to get ready for this historic moment. They know they're a part of history. She's going to tell you what it means to be a pre-K teacher, what it means to have the chance to have such a profound impact on children. Finally, I want to say before I call up a few of my colleagues, there are a few spaces left in pre-K. You can do the math with me. There's about 3,000 seats that have not yet been claimed, but they are literally going fast as we speak. Any parent who wants a pre-K seat or does not have a pre-K seat yet should act immediately, because soon every seat will be taken. And that's something we're very proud of, that every seat will be taken. But parents who are still trying to get this opportunity for children need to call 311 or visit the DOE website. We all know at the beginning of the year, some families move, some things change. There'll be some moving around throughout September until the very final rolls are struck. But basically, in just the next days, the vast majority of these seats, these remaining 3,000, will be taken. So we really want to urge parents who are looking for full-day pre-K for their child to act now. With that, I'd like to bring forward a woman who's done an absolutely outstanding job preparing the whole school system for opening day. See if I can get this step out. And here's the challenge. There we go. And she has responsibility. I'd just like to put this in perspective. A lot of people have important jobs. She has responsibility for 1.1 million children. And she is the most qualified person in the city to have responsibility for 1.1 million children. And this will be her first full school year as chancellor. And I can tell you, I hear it from parents, I hear it from teachers, I hear it from principals, I hear it from elected officials. No one in this city is better for the job, and people are excited to see what Carmen Farina can do. Our chancellor, Carmen Farina.
Thank you. First of all, it's a thrill to be here. I love all our schools, but I am fond in a very special way of PS 307. I appointed this principal. I helped, I think, bring together a community and really ensure that this is a school, one of our first learning partner schools, but also just for those of you who think pre-K is just fun and games, the children who come here are going to be learning Mandarin Chinese as one of their topics of conversation. And because we expect everything from our pre-Ks. We think this is a very special place where learning takes place, and we expect them to be able to achieve great things. I think the one thing I want to say, because I know that there are a lot of people going to be speaking to other issues, I love September. This is my 49th year as an educator. I haven't said that publicly too many times. But every September, I don't sleep at least 3 nights prior to the beginning of school, because I am convinced that every year it's the possibility of creating a whole new city, and most importantly, lives are changed by kids who go to school. Any parent of a 4-year-old that hasn't registered is avoiding me, because if I meet them in the street, my first question is, and how old are you? I went to the playground the other day with my youngest grandson, and my daughter says, Mom, do me a favor, don't embarrass us. Please don't talk to parents about the age of their children. The reality is, to parents, this is wonderful. But I also want to say, as a side note, nothing ever caused me more concern than the safety and welfare, whether I was a teacher, a principal, or a superintendent. And I can assure you that I'm looking at the pre-K as if every child was my grandchild. And I really believe that this is an opportunity to put all our children in a safe environment when they'll have an additional year of education. And in the long run, all our kids will be college bound. So I'm thrilled to be here today and really excited for September.
We've done this before.
Okay.
Yes,
en español. Es una oportunidad poder decir que vamos empezando en septiembre, que va a haber una oportunidad para todos los chiquillos que tengan 4 años poder registrar y empezar la escuela. Esto va a ser un año donde los chiquillos van a tener un año más de escuela, donde van a poder aprender la literatura, las matemáticas, y más importante para los padres hispanos, ellos van a poder ir a la escuela y ayudar a las maestras en las clases y tener oportunidad para aprender más cosas para ayudar a los chiquillos en casa. Parte de este programa es tener más información para padres y más clases para padres que quieren ayudar a sus chiquillos en clase. So, si usted tiene niños de 4 años y aún no registró, el día que empieza la escuela, la semana que viene, vete en persona y registra mismo en la escuela. Porque esto va a ser un año estupendo, un año muy importante, y necesitamos toda la gente de la ciudad de Nueva York que nos ayude. Gracias.
Gracias. There you go. Close enough. Couple more speakers, but I just want to say I noticed Elba Montalvo is here, and there was a group that got together even before action was taken in the Albany budget season, a group of incredible educators and community leaders who wanted to make pre-K a reality. We had a working group of extraordinary professionals who worked really hard. I see Elba Montalvo, I see Nancy Coleman, and others who have been really foundational to this effort. So I just want to give them credit for having laid a lot of the groundwork here. So you can give them a round of applause, too. I don't see Jennifer Jones-Austin, who was the co-chair of my transition and also played a crucial role in this effort. We thank her. Now, again, I mentioned elected officials were front and center. They helped us achieve what we needed from Albany in terms of resources. They helped us spread the word. They helped us get parents signed up. It's been a real team effort. Elected officials played a crucial role, and none was more front and center than our public advocate. She has been an extraordinary booster of schools that she saw as a council member needed her help. She got in there and she made a huge difference. She is a proud graduate of PS 39 in my old neighborhood.
Parkslope.
And then where did you go after that?
IS 88 Parkslope.
IS 88.
What about another learning point?
Fort Hamilton High School. Thank you. The whole way through. And that is part of why she is such an extraordinary advocate for public education. I'd like to welcome our public advocate, Tish James. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
That's okay. you.
Got the height there.
So welcome everyone to Vinegar Hill. This is Vinegar Hill. Across the street is Farragut Public Housing. And I want to thank all of you for coming to this wonderful venue. And I'm so happy that the mayor selected PS 307. As the former council member who represented this district, PS 307 is where these children learn STEM. They have a cultural exchange program with a school in Chinatown where they're learning Mandarin. That mural across the street, which is a mural I worked with them, they painted. This is all about excellence, a rigorous curriculum, and it's all because they have a wonderful, wonderful principal. And I'm so glad. Yes. I'm so glad that the chancellor saw it fit to appoint the greatest principal in the city, and that is Miss Davenport. Where are you, Miss Davenport? Woo! We love Miss Davenport in this neighborhood, right? So I'm so happy to stand here this afternoon with Mayor de Blasio and, of course, my very good friend and someone who I love and adore, Chancellor Carmen Farina, and other elected officials and officials in the administration as we prepare to more than double pre-K seats through the city of New York. Not only is New York's UPK program groundbreaking, but parents and guardians can rest easy knowing that these high-quality programs will be safe and provide benefits that will follow children for the rest of their education and adult life. UPK is a woman's issue. It's a working and middle-class person's issue. It's a family issue. Access to quality pre-K and Head Start programs allow low-income parents and parents without access to opportunity. It provides them with quality child care options, helping to close the education gap. And it eases economic stress on middle-class parents and families who might otherwise pay thousands of dollars for such a program. The reason why I'm so happy about this venue is that most of the children who excel here in these four walls are children who come across the street who have a number of challenges from Farragut Public Housing. No one can tell me that children who are not given an opportunity to rise up can exceed. And Principal Davenport and her wonderful team has demonstrated that time and time again. In the first year of UPK expansion, 30,000 more children will have the opportunity to enroll in a high-quality, full-day pre-K, bringing it to a total of, ready? 50,407 seats in UPK programs. The UPK program is a product of interagency collaboration, all working together to ensure that pre-K providers are able to ensure their sites are safe, and I really want to applaud Deputy Mayor Bury for doing all that he has done. The city's health department has increased its early education and child care team. The FDNY, under the leadership of Commissioner Nigro, has established a task force devoted to pre-K inspections, and DOB has increased its inspection staff to review UPK sites. Finally, I want to commend the administration on its quick action to address violations as we move towards September, including more frequent oversight of programs, a new program performance improvement initiative that will identify child care centers that need assistance meeting compliance standards, and in the long term, launching an annual inspection schedule. Let me just also say that there was a recent report that was issued, and as a result of that report, let me just say that I have been assured, and everyone in the city of New York, that the report primarily has nothing to do with safety. The person with the charge, the child pornography charge, they immediately terminated that employee. That was basically old news. And a full inspection determined agency did everything right in screening, background checks, and addressing the problem. And the agency went on to implement even more rigorous policies after that. And this was proved, and all of this obviously was acknowledged and and the individual who is the author of that report obviously was informed of all of that. And that's why I stand with this administration, because I know that they are dedicated to excellence, nothing less, nothing more, but pure excellence.
Thank you. We've got two more speakers I'd like to bring up. Then I'll give you a moment of Spanish. Then we'll do on topic. Then we'll do off topic. First, I'd like to bring forward, again, so many elected officials all over the city have participated, every level of government with great energy. One of the most vigorous we've ever seen, and she certainly has shown it again in the pre-K effort, is the Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio, and I too want to congratulate everyone who's been involved with this effort. As somebody who's been in government for a very long time, I remember when Hillary Clinton was First Lady of her state. And in that particular state, her focus was on early childhood education, and she founded a group called HIPPE, Hippie. And I remember when I was in the city council, I funded them to come to the west side of Manhattan, where I was in the city council. And they went door to door trying to get young people, young parents in particular, in the NYCHA development, to go to early childhood education programs. Fast forward to Mayor de Blasio and his focus on early childhood education. I think what's exciting about that is that the Hispanic Federation, Child Care Inc., or whatever in the world Nancy Colbin's organization is called now, I still call it Child Care Inc., has been focused on this issue for about 40 years. And it's very exciting to see it implemented in terms of all the studies stating early childhood education is the way in which education should begin. And second, I want to say that as somebody, as the mayor knows and others know, goes to every event known to humankind, I have been to every family day in Manhattan since they started, and I've been to every street festival and had a table, and every block association, and every gathering of Manhattanites. And at every single one is somebody with a pad, a very nice clipboard, and signing up people for pre-K. So I think I've met everyone in Manhattan who's signing up people for pre-K. And that's a credit to all the work that people here have done. Because I say that's an ancillary positive impact of this effort. Because these people are very dedicated. They're so nice. We've had them in our district office. They've come and given seminars and advocated for people to join up. And in doing so, they learn what the challenges are, which they bring back to their supervisors, and they spread the word of something called community organizing, which is certainly a hallmark of this mayor's advocacy and term as mayor, and something he's done in the past. So I just want to congratulate not only on the early childhood efforts, but on the ancillary efforts, because when you meet parents and talk to them and get them signed up, then you learn what some of the other issues are, both for the program and for that family, and you relay that. That's called, dotting the I, crossing the T's is also called cross-collaboration in terms of agencies. I told the mayor recently, and he got the biggest compliment, agencies talk to each other, Gail, and they never did in the past. You couldn't have a better compliment. And certainly in terms of this effort, agencies talk to each other, and then that's always best for New Yorkers. So on many levels, congratulations on this effort. We look forward to the 50,000, 53,000 families this year, and then working out any kinks. There are always going to be kinks in the system between ACS and DOE and challenges thereon, but we'll work them out, and I look forward to continuing to do that in Manhattan. I've heard of the other boroughs.
Want to thank, as I said, some elected officials will be coming. Just want to thank and acknowledge Councilmember Danique Miller from Queens for joining us. Thank you, Danique. Finally, final word, as it should be, goes to a teacher, to Kathleen Mooney. Again, teaches pre-K at this school. As someone we're proud of, because she is reaching children at this crucial moment in their lives and setting that foundation for them. This is a real expert. Let's bring forward, with our greatest appreciation, Kathleen Mooney. Yeah, fan club.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. I'm used to speaking in front of groups of people. However, those people are usually about 3, 4, and 5 years old. So bear with me, please. My name is Kathleen Mooney. I've been a public school teacher in New York City at PS 307, the Magnet School for STEM Studies, going into my 9th year. I've only taught at PS 307. I've always been an early childhood educator, and this will be my 5th year as a pre-K teacher, and I can certainly say I found my home in pre-K. Pre-K is a wonderful opportunity for children who have never attended school to learn complicated cognitive, social, emotional, and language skills. Skills they will acquire and use to succeed not only in kindergarten, but for the rest of their lives. In addition to high academic expectations, from the very first day of pre-K, children are provided highly structured opportunities to develop their social, emotional, and language skills. Through teacher and peer modeling, frequent opportunities for practice, a great deal of positive reinforcement and patience, students slowly begin to take ownership of their development. This includes conflict resolution, taking turns, following directions, sharing, listening, developing positive relationships with peers and adults, and most importantly, learning to love school. As a pre-K teacher, what I look forward to the most this year and every year are the months of March and April. This is the time of year when you get to see all those little light bulbs turning on in their heads of each of the children. It's usually around then that they begin to really take ownership of their learning. They're exploring independently. They're making individual choices about what they wish to learn about or do more of. And they are really beginning to develop a strong and positive sense of themselves. They're resolving conflicts, choosing independently which appropriate strategies and language to use. They're articulating their thoughts and feelings not only to the adults in the room, but to each other, and they're doing it all the time. It's very exciting and gratifying to witness and be a part of. I'm thrilled that pre-K is opening up to so many children this year, and even more excited that this opportunity will be given to so many more children next year. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Well done. Thank you. Thank you to all, not just all the pre-K teachers, but all the teachers, all the staff, everyone who makes this school work. I want to thank you as you get ready for another great year. En español, estoy orgulloso de anunciar que estamos en el camino de registrar a 53,000 estudiantes. La semana próxima comienza el histórico primer programa de pre-kinder universal de la ciudad de Nueva York. Again, we're going to start with on topic. We're going to go to off topic. On topic. Let's go back, Kate.
Great. Given that the CBOs don't officially report their enrollment numbers until October 1st, can you explain where these enrollment numbers come from? Are they from calling the CBOs to ask them how many kids are enrolled? Is this the number of kids who are already enrolled in the computer system?
Yeah, we've changed. I'm going to have Richard come up. We've changed the whole approach. We do not take a passive approach. There's been an active outreach approach. I appreciate Gail Brewer for giving you the on-the-ground view of what that has meant at the grassroots. We have reached out to parents. We've had enrollment specialists. We've been in constant touch with the community-based organizations. So we've been working literally individual by individual to nail the enrollment and make sure people are in the right place, and that's where we came up with that number.
Thank you. That's right. All I would add is that our numbers are based on young people who have enrolled in one of the online data systems primarily, so the Department of Education system, the ACS system, and the DOE system for CBEX. So basically, as young people are enrolled in those systems, we count them. We also then make sure there are not duplicates in case a parent were enrolled in more than one place, so that we have a unique number of enrollees. And as the mayor said, part of this is about our incredible work of our outreach team who are going out and making sure that CBEX are able to report back data to us as quickly as possible.
You just opened 126 new spots in Park Slope. Will there be continued centers opening in the next couple of weeks?
Well, we're very proud that center was open. That was a space that came online, became available to us from the Catholic Church very late in the process, but still in an area where there was incredible need. So we were able to get that one in play in time. I don't think at this point we expect any other. Yeah, I think that's probably the last major piece. That being said, for next year, the process has begun already because we're going to be acquiring much more space and in some cases even building pre-K centers to accommodate what we expect to be 65 to 70,000 students per year going forward.
Can you talk a bit more, please, about Mr. Springer's report? Because we understand the arguments, but are there other mechanisms for making sure that all the staff have had background checks? Because that seems like one of the things that he was supposed to look for, whether in the contracts that criminal background checks are done on this amount.
Well, I'm going to turn to our health commissioner, our investigations commissioner, our ACS commissioner to talk about this because they're really the experts. I just want to say I think the fundamental reality is there's a massive health and safety effort underway. That's a different question than the nuances of contracting. I think if you look at the history of contracting by the City of New York, for better or for worse, a lot of contracts took a while to be finally achieved. I want to do better on that by definition because I just don't like so much bureaucracy. But the real question is, are we addressing the health and safety concerns? And they are being addressed. The second there's a problem, they are addressed because we put so much focused effort and so many personnel on resolving each issue. So let me start with Dr. Bassett.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, when it's September, I think every adult thinks about school starting. For me, I began my path to big school at a neighborhood daycare center, nursery school in Dyckman houses, and my kids went to a community center for their daycare. So the last thing that we want people to worry about in community sites is the health and safety of their kids while they're there as they begin this important foundational step towards big school. We have been working tirelessly to address aggressively the violations in school, reducing the number of serious violations. The last data that I looked at yesterday, we had only 5 sites, as the mayor mentioned, that had violations that needed to be addressed immediately. The question was about criminal background checks. Now, every staff member, not just people in a teaching role, but anybody who works in contact with children has to have a criminal background check. If during our inspections, which can occur either as random, routine inspections in the course of a year, or in response to a complaint that is made to the program, during any of these inspections, we find people who don't have their paperwork in order, for whom we can't find paperwork, we ask that person to go home. And we don't allow them back until they get their paperwork in order. So that's the process by which we ensure that we have checked the criminal background checks. I don't know whether others want to say more. Yes.
Let me just add 1 or 2 quick law enforcement facts to what Dr. Bassett just said. First of all, prior to sites opening, as Dr. Bassett mentioned, there are health department, buildings department, fire department checks. There are criminal background checks done. In addition, there is a plan in place now once the pre-K centers open. There's a plan in place coordinated by all of those agencies and several others to continue a rigorous set of spot inspections, including unannounced spot inspections, in which we will demand to see all of the paperwork and all of the proof on site that each person there has been fingerprinted, where those spot inspections, which will be numerous and vigorous, determine that somebody doesn't have their paperwork, they will be sent home. More to the point, if we find a pattern of people not having their paperwork, we will recommend that the site be closed. And indeed, there's already been one instance where Dr. Bassett and I, working together, have closed a site because of patterns of getting paperwork wrong. So sites have been closed in the past. If it happens again, it'll happen. There will be rigorous inspections, including spot inspections, to check on fingerprints and other permitting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I call up ACS Commissioner Carione, I just want to thank Mark Peters and the Department of Investigations, because they have been a part of this from the beginning on the front end of the process. We literally said we want the Department of Investigations to work with everyone to raise the standards to the highest, to apply their special ability to figure out how to make each action by government appropriate and strong. They've been partners, and you just heard an example there of that kind of cooperation Gail Brewer mentioned. Health Department, Investigations Department jointly deciding that one of these programs was not meeting our standards, had to go. As you all know, there are many, many programs that wanted to become a part of our pre-K effort. So another fact that really needs to be understood, that has to be understood in this discussion is, remember back months ago, we put out a call for seats all over the city. We got many more seats made available to us than we ultimately would need. We've had the ability to say if any program is not up to snuff, that we will pass it over and go on to the next one, and that has given us even more latitude to hold the highest standards. Commissioner Carrion.
Good afternoon. As many of you know, the state agency that is responsible for doing the clearances is the Office of Children and Family Services. We're working very, very closely with them to expedite the clearances and the work that the state has to do. So we've worked collaboratively to create a process that will expedite all of these clearances and get the information back to us that we need.
Mr. Mayor, what, if anything, is the practical impact of the city not, or your administration not submitting the contracts to the Comptroller's office? Are you saying there's zero impact?
At this moment, based on everything we've seen, there's zero impact. We have made very clear. I had a good meeting with the Comptroller and his team. I said, if you've got any specific situation you want to bring to our attention, Commissioner Nigro, Commissioner Peters, Commissioner Dr. Bassett, Commissioner Carrion, everyone's ready to follow up. The Chancellor, the Deputy Mayor, show us where there's a specific problem. The two instances cited in the press release, as you heard, one had long since been resolved, and the others had been resolved in the same time as the report was made. So the fact is we don't have an example that's been provided us by the Comptroller's Office of something where there's a specific danger that we have to address.
Is putting out this news after you already had this meeting and had this conversation with them?
I don't know what to make of it. If the question is health and safety, I think it's quite evident we're focused and we've got a lot of serious professionals on it, and people are experts. I mean, I respect all of my colleagues in government. But if I want to know about fire safety, I'm calling Dan Nigro. If I want to know about how to investigate a difficult situation, I'm calling Mark Peters. If I want to know about health, I'm calling Dr. Mary Bassett. So I would say the professionals have made clear that these issues are being addressed.
Mr. Mayor, there were some who would say that Scott Stringer's press release and comments will be worrisome for parents, would scare people about sending their kids to pre-K things because of the things you talked about. They're worried about health, safety, things like that. I wonder what you would say to parents about that. And secondly, why you think Scott Stringer would want to scare parents a week before school starts?
Well, I don't know why any public official would want to leave parents with the misimpression that there's a danger when there isn't a danger. I would say to parents, first of all, I'm a parent myself, and it's the most important role I play is that of father. I am holding the standards here that I held for my own children, and I've said that to everyone who's a part of this. And again, these are people who have devoted their lives to protecting people and protecting children. It's personal for every one of them. So we are adamant. I think you heard the steely resolve in Dr. Bassett's voice and certainly Mark Peters' voice and Gladys's voice. Any time we find a problem, if we don't like what we see, we will shut down a center. If we see a problem, we're going to resolve the problem. If it's a lasting problem, that center is no longer part of our program. So I think the bottom line here is the safety of our children is paramount. We didn't come here to educate our children and not attend to their safety. We came here to keep them safe and to educate them, to give them the kind of education they haven't gotten before. And I think what parents have felt all over the city is that this was a moment they were waiting for where kids could finally get the kind of education they need for the 21st century. And I don't think anyone should stand in the way of that. But any legitimate problem will be addressed immediately. And by the way, as Dr. Bassett said before we came out here, we want parents to tell us if they see something. A part of this is if there's any concern, we absolutely need parents to raise it to the health department, to the DOE, to the ACS, because we'll act on it immediately.
Follow-up, do you think that Scott Stringer is trying to wound you politically in what has really become your signature issue and something that's getting not only local attention, statewide attention, but national attention?
I can't conjecture as to his motives. I can only say that the reason it's gotten citywide attention, statewide attention, and national attention is because people have come to the conclusion that we have to educate our children better. And there's an incredible consensus around that. And that's why we are absolutely resolved to get this right from the beginning, and that's why all of these professionals have been working on it.
Mr. Mayor, two questions. First, there's obviously a substantial amount of contracts that have yet to be submitted to the Comptroller's office. Do you have a sense, a time frame as to when that would be completed? And the second question is, can you definitively say that all staffers in these pre-K sites have received a background check?
I'm going to go over the background check in a second. You're going to hear from the people responsible for it, but let me get you an updated number on the contract, and that requires me pulling out the step for Gladys Carrion, because I think you need to know a little more about the numbers in our pre-K program. Any of you who followed it over the last year know that pre-K is both Department of Education and Administration for Children's Services. The report you were given yesterday does not present all the numbers. Gladys, would you like to add?
Sure. So as a system as a whole, we have submitted over 50% of the contracts. And ACS, for instance, has submitted over 98% of its contracts, and they already have been registered. So we need to put this in perspective. Our contracts, we have been submitting contracts to the controller's office. And ACS contracts are pretty much completed, and we have over 50% of DOE contracts. So as an entire system, we're really moving as expeditiously as we can. You all need to understand that prior contacting process has always been very onerous and very lengthy, and a lot of delays for a variety of reasons. That's been the case. We are in a much better place than we were, for instance, last year in registration of contracts for UPK. So we want to do better. We understand how important it is. We are doing all of the clearances. It is our intent to make sure that every teacher must be cleared before they are in the classroom. Under state provision, a teacher can be in the classroom and not have their clearance completed. It must be submitted, but could only work under the supervision of someone that has been cleared already. But it is our expectation to have everyone cleared before they start working in a school or in a community-based program.
Tell them the total number of your contracts that were approved, roughly.
About 130 of our contracts have been approved already.
Okay. Why don't we add on the question of the 130? ACS.
132.
So about 98%.
Commissioner Carrion is correct that we regarding the background clearance question. So we require everyone on site to have criminal background checks. We look for them when we inspect them, either in response to complaints or in response to as part of our annual inspections. People who have submitted their criminal background check applications, had their fingerprinting done, can work under the supervision of somebody who has had their clearance approved. So people are either working under the supervision of somebody who's been cleared, or they have their paperwork already approved. Is that clear?
Is there a percentage of how many people have had it cleared?
We are working to accelerate in a collaboration with OCFS, which is the state agency responsible for background checks, to ensure that all of them are processed in a timely fashion. We're working tirelessly to make sure that they've all gone through the system. But as I said, people can work under the supervision of somebody who has a background check. We're working tirelessly to get them all processed. They all have to have been submitted.
Chancellor.
I want to be clear that this issue of contracts not being signed by the beginning of school has traditionally always been an issue. And as Deputy Chancellor under the former administration, I can tell you that we certainly started school with a large percentage of contracts that we knew were going to be signed ultimately, but were not signed at that time. So this is not new. It's not news. It's simply a matter, like the mayor said, of making it better as we go forward.
Mr. Mayor, you said that the comptroller hasn't specified any specific problems to you, but if you haven't submitted hundreds of contracts, how could he have pointed out these issues? And the other thing is, you seem to suggest that his oversight role is relatively unimportant in this whole process. I'm just wondering if that's the way you feel.
This is not about personalities, and it's not about motives or anything else. This is just about facts. A huge number of contracts, as you heard from Gladys Carrion, almost all her contracts approved, large number of DOE contracts approved, and a lot of others that are coming along. And what I'm saying is, if there was a specific trend of health and safety issues that was being brought back to us for action, of course we'd be acting on them. But that hasn't been the case. I welcome it. I welcome it. If there's specific issues that the comptroller finds from the ones he's gotten already, which are quite a large number, we're going to get right on it. But I think I want to get the cart and the horse right here. The comptroller's role is to approve the contracts. It's an important role. But way before that, all of these agencies were already working on the health and safety issues, and they'll continue to work on the health and safety issues. So in the end, when I think about health and safety, I think about the professionals who do this work, and I trust them. And I want to just take an opportunity, because Dan Nigro hasn't had a chance. I want you to hear just what the fire department has done, because it's really extraordinary.
Well, explaining our role, of course, what the fire department has one simple focus, and it's the health and safety of every single person in our city and every single neighborhood. So that includes, of course, the 50-plus 4-year-olds who are going to enter UPK, 50,000 plus, excuse me, who are entering pre-K. And our role is what? To inspect each and every facility to ensure that the facilities that our children and grandchildren enter next Thursday are absolutely safe. So to do that, we dedicated 100 professionals, all firefighters and fire officers, inspect buildings professionally every day as part of their job. So we dedicated 100 professionals, plus all of our units, to do over 1,600 inspections to get ready for the opening of this expanded UPK program. In addition to that, next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to go back to some facilities and spot check an additional 250, and we'll keep 60 people in this task force and on the ready to go out and look into any and all problems that are reported. Because as I say, the only role we have and the only focus we have is the safety of each and every person, and I can assure you that the facilities they enter Thursday will be safe.
More on topic. The comptroller's office has already rejected at least one contract. What if they reject any of these hundreds of contracts once the school year has already started?
Well, I'll turn to Richard or Mark. Mark's the lawyer. Richard's the lawyer. I'm sure they can speak to this. Look, the notion here is we have an obligation to run these programs and to do them effectively and safely. If there's a problem in the contracting process, we will go back and resolve that problem. But the programs are going to open based on all the effort that's been put in to ensure their effectiveness and their safety. So if we find a problem, we will go back and work on that contract, and there's revisions necessary, we'll do them. Anything to add on that process?
I mean, I would just say briefly, in part to repeat what the mayor said, I mean, again, we welcome and are open to any feedback about anything that anyone finds about the health and safety of any provider. So, of course, if there were a legitimate reason for the comptroller to reject a contract, we would welcome that information and move forward. But it's also important to remember the nature of that role that the comptroller plays. It is a purview of the city's health department, the Department of Investigation, the fire department, et cetera, to ensure the health and safety of programs. It's a purview of the Department of Education, the ACF, to ensure these are programs that live up to our quality standards. That's not the nature of the comptroller's review. And the reason why the comptroller should reject the contract would not be because they have a different opinion of the provider. It would be for a reason related to the fiscal integrity, the contracting process. It's not about what we're talking about. So that is a very important check. It is just not about what the fire department is about and what health and Department of Health and Mental Hygiene is about.
Okay, let me let Mark add for a second. There we go.
Otherwise I'll stand on tiptoes. Just two other very quick points. One is that as to the fiscal integrity, we have already begun putting steps in place to make sure of that. We are talking, after all, about spending a lot of money. Deputy Mayor Bury and I, working with all of the commissioners you see here, are putting together a task force that will not only be doing spot checks to ensure safety, but will also be doing data mapping and other work to make sure that the fiscal integrity of the programs is secure, because a program of this size is one where you always have to do that. And then lastly, I will say the staff at DOI and the staff at the Comptroller's Office talk on a regular basis about a lot of topics, so that if they have concerns about specific pre-Ks for any reason, their staff, my staff, talk all the time. To date, they have not reached out to us yet on the UPK subject at all to raise any concerns.
This is off topic, Mr. Mayor.
Wait, staying on. Let's just finish on, then we'll go off. Anything on?
is a great, huge display of support, but I was wondering if maybe everyone came together or was called to come together last night, or if this was prearranged.
The press conference is something we've been talking about for days and days to announce the enrollment figures in anticipation of next week. We wanted to make sure that a couple of additional commissioners were here to answer questions, but this is something we had planned in advance.
My understanding that the 12, that's now 5 violations were supposed to be addressed in a 24-hour time period as of last week. Can you talk about at what point you decide whether you would be closing those schools or not?
Sure. So when we find a site which has a violation which we determine requires immediate action, the first step is to remediate it. Very commonly, this is for a paperwork problem, such as the background checks, which we've already talked about, which, incidentally, I should have pointed out, usually it's not that these don't exist, it's simply that the paperwork has to catch up with the individual. Most of the times these background checks have been done, we just don't have the documentation of them. So, and a remedial action has to be taken. If there's been food left out at above the temperature that it should be stored at, it needs to be discarded, and the operator has to undertake to refrigerate their food. If somebody doesn't have their background check on file, we need to tell them to go home until they get it. So that's the remediation. Then we move on to ensure that this violation is completely and permanently addressed. And for that, there's more time. But we don't leave any site which there is a situation which creates a hazard to children or to the people who work there without addressing it. If we can't address it, we close the site. And this happens rarely. Probably about 30 times a year. So it doesn't happen often, but when it happens and we can't remediate the hazard, we close the site.
I want to follow up on that. This is the same as would be true for any district public school. If we find a health problem or a safety problem, the goal is to go in and immediately address it. If it's going to take a few days of a closure to address it, we do it for a few days. If something looks more lasting, we literally close the facility for the duration of the remediation. We believe at this point, you've heard the numbers, there's a handful of cases left. We think we'll resolve them. For any reason we're not satisfied by Wednesday, we're literally going to be able, or even earlier, to tell parents that we're holding off for a couple of days in that specific site. If in the next couple of days we become convinced, today, tomorrow, that a site is not going to make it and is going to have longer-term problems, we're literally going to pull the kids from that site, give parents an alternative site nearby. So we have a lot of leeway because so many sites have been put into play. But, for example, a one-day closure to fix a problem, we know of that in different public sites. That's not unusual. That happens occasionally. That's the kind of thing that might be necessary in certain cases.
How would you characterize your relationship with Scott Stringer?
I think we've worked together on a variety of issues. And I think it's been a professional relationship. Anything else on topic? On topic, going once, going twice.
Actually, it seems like you put in a lot of effort into this. I mean, obviously. So, do you think this level of commitment would be possible going forward, or would it be necessary going forward?
Oh, I think it's, in one way, a permanent feature. We believe that early childhood education is the key to success in education and to so many other things in our society. So to sustain this effort, this kind of inspection will have to happen every year. There'll be a lot of continued effort to keep this strong. I do think it's fair to say, in light of your question, some of this stuff, the first time, the second time, you set the pattern in place and it becomes something that everyone learns to follow effectively. So I think we'll be able to, realize those efficiencies. But will we be making a long-term substantial investment to pre-K, not just from DOE and the ACS, but from other city agencies? Absolutely.
We talked a lot about health and safety, the outstanding issues. Are there any other issues with any of the other agencies, FDNY, DOB, that require remediation at a site before the school year starts?
Tom, on DOB, you want to come up and give the analysis?
Sure. Of all the sites, we had 190 of the sites had hazardous violations. That's our highest classification of them. We inspected all of those sites, and we're down to 7 sites that they haven't complied with they haven't remediated the work, and so we're working with those to resolve that now.
And so same. Same pattern that they are likely, but in a couple of cases, if we don't feel good by tomorrow, we have the option to pull them down or delay them a few days. On DOI, any outstanding issues? So again, 1,100 plus sites, any outstanding issues?
I believe there is a single site that we're still talking with some folks about, and either it'll get fixed or the site will get pulled. But there's only one left. I'm looking at my folks now who are, yes, there's only one site left that we're still talking with folks about.
Can I follow up on that point? Yeah. Sorry, I just want to make an important point that, to reiterate, we do expect the majority of those sites to be okay, but I will reiterate that in any case where we decide, as we will over the next day or two, that one of those sites cannot move forward, we immediately put the enrollment team to work to individually engage those families and to find another program that will serve them to make sure that every child who has plans to go to school on September 4th will have a preschool to go to on September 4th.
So, Mr. Mayor, do you anticipate that opening day will be filled with glitches and snags, or will it be smooth?
I think, thank you for providing two alternatives. I like multiple choice tests. I think it'll be very smooth. I think this chancellor has done an extraordinary job. Commissioner Carrion's done an extraordinary job getting their agencies ready to go. As Carmen Farina said, 49 years on the job. I think she knows a thing or two about how to get the school system ready for opening day. We feel very, very good. I'm going to have her come up when we go to other topics. Before we do, I know she wants to say one last thing. But we feel very confident about a smooth school opening and a safe school opening. Melissa.
Mayor, are you sort of irritated or annoyed that one of your fellow Democrats in government is sort of trying to throw a wrench into your already? And did you ask him after your meeting yesterday not to put this out?
First of all, I have grown to the point where I don't get irritated by other people's actions. We have a job to do. I said to him very clearly, show me the problems that we can fix together because I want to fix them. And again, the phone lines are open. I welcome any and all knowledge. Mark Peter said that DOI feels the same way. We want the information on anything that we can fix. I think we all have that job to do together. And if there is more information, I look forward to hearing it. Last call on topic. Yes.
What do you think are going to be the big challenges of the next 2 weeks in making sure that the school year starts off smoothly and giving kids high-quality pre-K?
I'll start and then pass to Carmen. I feel the foundation is very, very strong at this point. There's been a huge amount of communication. One of the things that has, I think, plagued our schools in the past is when there isn't sufficient communication with parents. I say that as a public school parent myself. The outreach teams and everyone in these agencies has done really an extraordinary job communicating to parents how things are going to go, what it looks like, answering their questions and concerns, letting them know where they can call if there's any kind of problem. Carmen will tell you the moment a parent brings their child to pre-K is it's an amazing moment. It's also a challenging moment for any parent. She's taken some extraordinary measures to help make sure there's really a great team ready to receive kids and parents. But I feel great about the foundation we have laid. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement. I think there's going to be a lot of energy that so many more kids are going to get this chance and that it is something historic. Let me turn to the Chancellor, then we'll go to off-topic.
First of all, there are always glitches. How do you move 1.2 million kids and say there's not going to be a glitch? But I will tell you that just in the last week, these are some of the things we've done. I had an open meeting during the vacation for guidance counselors. We had close to 400 guidance counselors come. We didn't have room for any more, so we're having a second session. And I've asked guidance counselors to be the frontline people in all our elementary schools, greet parents, have boxes of tissues ready, not for the kids, for the grown-ups, and making sure that they hold coffee hours for parents to soothe them, because a lot of them, the problems are going to be separating from their kids. And a lot of our parents would love to have their children in school, but most importantly are also afraid to separate from them. I have a daughter who's having real separation problems from her 2.5-year-old, so she's sitting in a parking lot with a zoom lens camera watching what he's doing in the schoolyard, which I said, we don't do that. And that's a true story, and he's 2.5.
It's obviously a true story.
Couldn't make that one up. And says we reports every half hour. The other thing we've done, I've met with every superintendent in New York City, asking them to make sure they meet with every principal, that they have a real clear plan on how to greet pre-K parents in the morning at dismissal time and answer any questions. So there are going to be an awful lot of people around the city. Same thing with CBOs. We've been sending messages out, written several letters on what are the right things to do. But I really want to be sure before they go to the non-topic questions, that we don't forget what this program is historically all about. It's not about contracts. I mean, those are important. It's about the joy of learning that we're bringing to 4-year-olds. We've got to stay focused on that. And I want parents to think about the first day of school, your children are going to go and they're going to learn how to sing. They're going to learn how to play with each other. They're going to have, yard time where they have to learn how to share. Some kids are not too good at that, and there's a lesson learned in school. So I really want to tell parents, once again, that as an abuela, I take very seriously everything, but I want to say that this is an opportunity not to be missed, and most importantly, to be savored. When your 4-year-old comes home from school the first day, don't ask them, how did it go? Say, what's the best thing you did in school today? And then let them talk. Thank you.
Amen. Okay. Off topic.
Mr. Mayor, it seems that you and a police union disagree with the crime rates going on in the city. I believe it's the police union that doesn't want the DNC happening over in Brooklyn. Given that disagreement, can you explain if the city, to what extent, if it is, reclassifying crimes would result in any adjusted crime rates? And if this is the case, what kind of crimes could be reclassified?
I think Commissioner Bratton and his team are literally the most advanced in the nation crime statistics. This is the man who brought us CompStat. I sat in a CompStat meeting a week ago, and it is an extraordinary example of advanced, intelligent public sector leaders figuring out what's really going on and acting on it. And in fact, as anyone knows who's seen CompStat or talked about it, it's rigorous. It's challenging. In fact, the leadership of the department challenges the precinct commanders to look under the hood of what's going on and to see if there isn't even more there. So it's actually, I understand the concern you're raising, because in some police departments around the country there have been allegations that crimes were undercounted. But under Bill Bratton, there's a relentless search to make sure we got every crime classified properly and that we're doing all the follow-up we need. So I'm very confident about the numbers. The numbers today, these are facts. These are from the New York City Police Department, not from a union with its own agenda, but from the New York City Police Department. We had 30 fewer murders as of midnight last night, 30 fewer murders than the same point last year. We're very proud of that fact. Overall crime down 3.6%, 1,000 fewer robberies than the same point last year. Those are facts. There are a number of additional shootings, about 60 more shootings, 60, at this point last year than the total time, same point last year, about 8 months, 60 more shootings. We take that seriously. We've added resources to address that. I also want to say I think the Captains Union, I commend the Captains Union and the President Roy Richter for their clear statement of support for the Democratic National Committee, and then much more important, for the convention I should say, much more important, their belief that New York City is safe and getting safer. We depend on our captains. We depend on all our police personnel. I think they're doing a great, great job, and the numbers prove it. I think the Captains Union made that very clear.
This school is no longer a learning partner school, and if so, can you explain why?
Is it no longer a learning partner school, and can you explain why?
No, this is absolutely a learning partner. And we added more. We have 73, and we expect the number to grow. Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, your FOIL office is taken to responding to requests either by not providing a date when we're going to get an answer or by saying it's going to be 90 days in the future. And as someone who has done a report on FOIL law, I'm sure you're aware there's a 20-day time limit. So I'm wondering if you were aware of that, or if not, if you could just please look into it.
I'll certainly look into it. I'm not aware of all the specifics. I do know we're trying very consistently to acknowledge FOIL requests and come up with an action plan for each one.
Mayor, the alumni associations of these specialized high schools came out yesterday and said, you should not change the admissions criteria. It'll end up, diluting the curriculum and making it not as rigorous. If you could respond to that, and also why you haven't taken action on the 5 schools you do control to change the policy. So
I'll answer, and the chancellor, maybe the public advocate might have something to say on this one. I will welcome the chancellor and the public advocate to follow me if they want to say anything. It's just this simple. This is a society that's supposed to be based on fairness. our specialized schools don't reflect the kind of fairness that any New Yorker would recognize by any common sense measure. The last figures I heard for Stuyvesant, I have great respect for Stuyvesant. It's an extraordinary New York City institution. Last time I checked, Black and Latino student enrollment was around 7% combined, 7%, single digits combined, in a city that is over half Black and Latino population. Doesn't represent our city. If you're asking me, are there lots of talented Black and Latino young people who would do very well at Stuyvesant and would uphold the noble tradition of Stuyvesant? Unquestionably. Could I fill Stuyvesant with people of all backgrounds and have a great and wonderful educational experience keeping the most rigorous standards? Unquestionably. You know what the problem is? Standardized testing. I have felt this for years, even before I became a public servant. You cannot judge people solely by a standardized test. And we, as an administration, and the Chancellor is leading the way on this, we are moving away from anything that limits the measure of any student or any teacher or any principal based solely on standardized testing. We think it's flawed. By the way, I mentioned a few days back a quote from the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, who said that multiple measures are clearly recognized all over the country as the way to go. So we have to move away from the single standardized test as the way of getting things done. We cannot have the schools that are the jewels in the crown of New York City public education not reflect the totality of our people. We can absolutely find high-quality students from all backgrounds, and we're going to come up with a better way to do it. That's what we're going to have to achieve in Albany through legislation. In terms of our own schools, we are starting that process. Want to pick it up?
I would agree with the mayor, but I would also stress that I believe in the high standards, and there's got to be sure that whatever process we use, that the standards are still met. And one of the things we've done is we put together a committee of people to study it, both from the university field, experts in other areas, to come together and have a discussion. They've been meeting over the summer, and they will continue to meet. And when we have some information, we'll share it with you.
Public advocate, you want to jump in?
I've represented Brooklyn Tech. Brooklyn Tech is not too far from where we are today. And I do know that one single test should not be the basis for one's admission. Countless number of parents in Fort Greene, not too far in public housing, have indicated to me that they would love to go to Brooklyn Tech. They've missed it by 1 point, by 2 points. I think that's totally unacceptable. To basically base one's ability for success on one single standardized test is something over the years that I have rejected, of abhorred. I think we can look at a wide range of ways to determine one's success, particularly in standardized schools in the city of New York, particularly if we value diversity.
Are you surprised that the New York Times passed an endorsing Governor Andrew Cuomo?
I don't conjecture about any editorial board and what it does. All I can say is I'm strongly supporting Governor Cuomo. I'm strongly supporting Ms. Hochul. I think, Governor Cuomo has done an extraordinary job. I delineated just what we've achieved together in 8 months. Pre-K, after school, increased school aid, funding for folks with HIV and AIDS to get affordable housing, new efforts to combat homelessness, new speed limits, speed cameras. It's been an extraordinary record of getting things done for New York City. I think every New Yorker should be voting for Governor Cuomo.
I was wondering if there's any update or possibility of the police wearing body cameras. If there's any, I heard that there might be a pilot program.
Yes, the public advocate always has a view on this matter, and I want to say to her, she has very diligently represented in repeated discussions with me her concern that this be the way we go. Look, I think the commissioner said clearly, first as a result of the settlement in the stop and frisk case, we were going to move to the pilot. The commissioner's going to have a lot more to say about that. And he'll fill in the blanks on how that pilot's proceeding. I do want to caution, there is no police department in the country anywhere near the scale of the New York City Police Department. So in terms of the build-out, this has to be done very smartly because we have to see what works. And so the pilot is, and I want to say this with deepest respect for my colleague and her strong view, the pilot's going to tell us a lot. It's going to tell us whether it's something we can use on a bigger scale or it's something that's going to take a lot more time to use on a bigger scale. We'll have to find that out objectively. But we're absolutely committed to the pilot. We think there's a real promise there. Again, the commissioner will fill in the rest for you.
And who's going to be a part of the pilot program?
Well, obviously the settlement delineated a certain number of precincts would be tried. Part of the question is what scale you can actually reach in the short run. I've gotten this briefing, very complicated issues in terms of data storage and obviously confidentiality issues, for example, in a domestic dispute. There's real nuances here. They will be worked on. And again, this administration's position is we want this pilot to move forward, and we think there's something important there. But I also want to caution, the reason it's a pilot is, one, the settlement, two, to find out what works. Did I see one over here or not? Okay. Excellent. Thank you, everyone.